What's up everybody? Hi, how are you? In this channel, we talk all things how-tos, tips and tricks, and product reviews.
For today's video, I thought I'm gonna listen to you guys. I'm gonna show you my way of taking notes.
Before we get into the video, if you want to know how to win these awesome stationery items, don't forget to check out last week's video for details. Now, let's get to the video. The very first tip I have is that you come prepared to class. Reading your book before coming in, even if it is just skimming through the material and reading the first and last paragraph of each section, as well as highlighting any material that is important in the chapter, can prove to be so beneficial. This gives you a basic understanding of what is being covered, and going into the lecture, you come prepared with questions needing an answer, as well as being able to pay more attention to how your teacher explains the material as opposed to what is actually being said. Speaking of class, your note-taking actually begins in the classroom. So the second tip is to make yourself aware of how to take lecture notes. Adding the date of the lecture to your reference is very important. Begin with writing the main point of what is being presented. This will usually be a definition, an important date, or even a fact. Then you will move on to the subtopics. This will expand on the information that is already in the main points. This note-taking style is called an outline. If you feel like you need to add a subtopic, don't be afraid to add that bad boy right in. Be sure to write examples or anything that the professor or teacher emphasizes on in a blank space anywhere in your sheet, and draw something cute around it just so that it stands out. Some things to remember when you are taking your notes in lecture is to not worry about writing every single detail word for word. The professor is already explaining what is on your book. You want to make sure that you write what is important. So you should come prepared knowing the key points of what you are going to go over in class, and not just repeating what is already at your disposal right in your book. You also want to make sure that you really actively listen to your professor. They know what is on your test, so just make sure that you watch out for any cues. Lastly, don't worry about any mistakes. If you write something incorrectly, if you have to scribble it out, if you have to cover it with a sticky note, don't worry. This is just a draft for your actual notes at home. Third tip is to look for colors that go together. Making your notes aesthetically pleasing will make you want to pick them up and review them more often. Not only this, having colors that match will help your brain make connections in the information for better retention of the material. So when you're sitting at your test and you're thinking, what formula goes to this problem? You're gonna think, oh yes, I wrote this in blue. It's this formula. The fourth tip is to use one subject or main point per page. Making your notes extremely long will defeat the purpose of making notes at all, because it would be just like reading the book all over again. You should be able to understand the information well enough to add keywords to a sheet that you can use for reviewing purposes. Notes are just that, a review of the information. Make sure you fully understand the material before finalizing what will be on the final notes page you have prepared. Whether that is watching movies, asking your professor in lecture, or even talking to a friend through a Zoom session to see if they got the information that you didn't understand. Making sure you understand what is going on is important so that you are able to summarize it and add it to your final notes page. The fifth tip is to listen to your teacher or professor. I know I've already mentioned this maybe 50 times in this video, but it is so important. Making sure that when you are in lecture with your book or your printed PowerPoint, you listen to what your teacher emphasizes. There is always something that is repeated 2-3 times. Sometimes they speak a little louder when they say certain things. Sometimes they will flat out say, make sure that you know this. 9 times out of 10, that is something that will be on your test, and usually it's word for word. The sixth tip is to make sure your notes are aesthetically pleasing. Anything that can have a quick doodle, go ahead and doodle it. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that is so true. Having a picture or a doodle of a certain part of your material helps you to understand the content better. Mind maps are a perfect tool for this. Also, try using sticky notes or stickers on your notes just to make them a tad bit more appealing. Seventh tip is to make sure your notes are consistent to avoid getting overwhelmed. There are many note-taking methods, and having your notes all over the place will make you get overwhelmed with your notes and the content you have jotted down, and you will most likely not pick it up at all. Make sure that the note-taking method you choose works for you and you are really grasping the material before you decide to stick with one. Then just go ahead and stick with it. The eighth and final tip is to laminate your notes. Laminating your notes makes them cute to look at, and also it protects them from environmental hazards. This keeps your notes safe no matter where you take them. If you need to go anywhere, you can take your notes with you and look at them in your downtime. That way you are consistently looking at those notes. Also, when you do this, be cautious. It's hot. If you like these tips on study, don't forget to click on this card right here and check out last week's video on how to get straight A's, where I give you some tips and tricks on how to study effectively, efficiently, and productively. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found these tips helpful, and if you didn't, well, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, click that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload new videos.